It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I just learned Discover credit cards do something pretty awesome. At the end of your first year, they automatically double all the cash back you've earned. That's right, everything you earned doubled. All the cash back from eating at your favorite soup dumpling restaurant doubled. All the cash back from the trip where you sort of learned how to snowboard also doubled. And the best part, you don't have to do anything ridiculous to get it. Nope, Discover does it automatically. Seriously though, see terms and check it out for yourself at discover.com/match.
We are back inside the official Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast Lab, and it's time to get very serious about the outlook for some of these teams that have been bounced from the postseason already. What does the future hold for the Bruins, Avalanche, and others? We're going to get right to it on today's episode.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to your source for fantasy hockey news. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. The duo is back together officially. Steele, it feels good to be back on Canadian soil and back by your side for a Monday to Friday production of this podcast. And thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We appreciate all that love out there. And honestly, Steele, this time of year, I feel blessed to be doing this podcast. There's so much awesome hockey going on and off the ice. And I think maybe we're going to shift our focus a little bit today to off the ice and some of these teams that have been bounced. And what does that mean for them next season? Fantasy pieces, Avalanche, Bruins, Lightning, Kings, even your Wild. Lots to talk about. Let's get to that. Big time bets. And you know, I want to talk about these updated Conn Smythe odds because Matthew Tkachuk has rocketed up the board out of nowhere. Maybe worth a sprinkle. We're going to get to that too. Man, I'm happy to be back, my friend. Thank you for holding us down. And yeah, let's talk about this. Maybe aside from Boston, what's your most surprising bounce? And let's start with that team.
I think the most surprising bounce, obviously, is the Colorado Avalanche. I think that was, obviously.
Aside from the Bruins.
Yeah, aside from the Bruins, to me, it has to be the Colorado Avalanche. But at the same time, Cale Makar gets suspended for one game. They're without Gabriel Landeskog for the entire season. They didn't have Nichushkin for the last 4 or 5 games, I believe it was. I think he only played the first 2.
He played one. Yeah, one or two.
So, when you're without special guys and special players like Landeskog the entire season, Nichushkin, who's battled injury all season, but then obviously the incident at the hotel in Seattle brought him away from the team as well for the remainder of that series. Cale Makar gets suspended for one game. Obviously the absence of Nazem Kadri was a huge thing going into the season. So for me, the biggest bounce probably is the Colorado Avalanche right up there against the Boston Bruins because they're the reigning Stanley Cup champions. You expect them to make quick work of the Seattle Kraken. No one saw the Kraken winning that series. They didn't make quick work. Even Nathan McKinnon was like, that's the hardest first-round series I've ever been a part of. Right. And that's the type of hockey the Seattle Kraken play. So besides Boston, it has to be the Colorado Avalanche.
And I think for me, where we're going to also take this angle is who has the best shot at bouncing back? We've talked about the teams losing, but there's some interesting angles to take here because I think when I look at Cap Friendly, shout out to Cap Friendly, and a lot of these teams have varying degrees of contract issues or lack thereof. Colorado, for me in the West, has got to be the team that has the best shot to bounce back. There's just so much good talent, and that core is intact. They're going to come back. And I think really it rests on Georgiev's shoulders to take that reign as a number one goalie. I think he can do it. Maybe that little bit of postseason now lack of success fires him up. But also to me, Steele, and we'll head to the East in a sec, the LA Kings are right there on the cusp. Such a good team. And I think you and I disagreed on Korpisalo's performance, but I think we can agree this is a really, really good team just starting to figure it out.
Yeah, for me, I've got 3 teams that can immediately bounce back for next season. Colorado being one of them, because I already explained
Agreed.
why. They were without Landeskog, they were without all those players, so it's difficult, obviously, in the first round. And like we've seen in the NHL playoffs, any team can go deep. That's the thing I love most about the NHL. It's not like the NBA. It's not like the NFL. Any team can make it to the Stanley Cup Finals and win. So for me, one of those teams was Colorado, for sure. Another one of those teams was the LA Kings as well, because I think both of us said it.
Thank you.
Whoever came out of that series between the Kings and the Oilers were probably going to go all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. At least I know I said that. One of those teams was going to go.
Yeah, the West is wide open.
It was wide open. So, yeah, we were in a disagreement on the Jonas Korpisalo play. Again, he puts up, 5 goals against in two of those last 3 games. And I don't think it was all on him. I thought he actually did play a great series. I just think overwhelming Draisaitl and McDavid. So I'm with you with Colorado, and I'm with you with the LA Kings. The actual team that I have, and the one team I have in the Eastern Conference, it's not the Boston Bruins. It's not the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's actually the New York Islanders. I think they have the best chance to make a bounce back season next year. And here's what I would change for the Islanders. Number one, it would have been nice for them to be able to land either Johnny Gaudreau or Nazem Kadri in the offseason. So number one is the front office, the management, they have to do everything in their power in order to land a superstar in the offseason, or at least trade for one. That's number one, because we know how poorly they are in the offensive zone. They're not an offensive team. They're more of a defensive team. So that's the number one thing. Number two, they need to shed some of the age on their team. I do love some of those depth players, but when you look at guys like Josh Bailey, Cal Clutterbuck, Zach Parise, Matt Martin, they do bring value to the team.
Kyle Palmieri is also 33.
They are a very, very old team. And when you have guys like Bo Horvat, Matt Barzal, Noah Dobson, Ilya Sorokin, who are young and up and coming, you need to surround them with a little bit more speed and a little bit more around their same age. So I think they need, and I think they realize this too, because I've seen some comments from Josh Bailey after the series was over, because he was healthy scratch throughout that series. They're most likely going to get younger and they're going to get faster. That's what needs to change, because they have probably a top 3 goaltender in Ilya Sorokin. There's no way
top 2.
You
know how I feel about my boy Ilya.
So with Ilya Sorokin,
I'm actually here for this take. By the way,
for me, Ilya Sorokin is top 3 in the league for goaltending. He's one of the best. Right?
He's so nasty.
I love the defensive group for the New York Islanders. I think if I would change one thing,
check. Yep.
Coaching decisions wise, they need to be able to switch up their games throughout the playoffs or throughout the regular season, and start getting their defensemen to jump into the plays offensively, or at least produce more shots on net. Because I wasn't seeing a ton of offensive production from the guys on the blue line, like we're seeing out of Morgan Riley, like we're seeing out of Brandon Montour. So these are small little changes, but if they can get a little bit younger, a little bit faster to help Barzal and Bo Horvat and Anders Lee, and then you can start to instill a more aggressive offensive game from the guys on the blue line, because we already know how great they are in the defensive zone. So those are a few things. And for me, I really did think the Islanders were going to win that first round against the Hurricanes. It didn't end up that way, but I believe they can bounce back for next season.
At the end of the day, and man, I miss doing this show with you, because this is what I love talking about. And I hope the listeners have missed us being together as much as we have. It comes down to our boy in the crease. This is just when you have a goaltender this good, and he really seems to be peaking right now. And you already have that defensive structure and the guys that you and I have talked about at length on the blue line that you can rely on, a bunch of underrated guys in addition to Noah Dobson. They need to shuffle the deck up front, and they have a couple of good pieces that you don't have to go all out here. Is it a tall ask for the front office? We know it could be.
Yeah.
But I think, Steele, you're spot on here, because, look, Boston's going to be Boston. Tampa's going to be Tampa. But I just think that the New York Islanders, and they were second on my list right behind Boston, because I just think Boston, I don't know, man. Patrice Bergeron might not come back, but they still have a lot of good pieces, and that goaltending duo. Anyway, I'm not going to go there. on your Islanders point, they have to get younger.
Yeah.
You're so spot on. That lineup is just a bit ragged, and they need that offensive punch. So if they can add a piece deal, I think just the goaltending is that good. And that's it right there. So I don't need to go back down that road. I'm happy that everyone is going back down this road of a Monday to Friday show with both Steele and I. We got a lot more to talk about. Conn Smythe odds. We're going to get to also our Thursday night bets. Oh my goodness, it's good to be back, Steele. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Built and Built.com. You're looking for that delicious snack and you don't want all the sugar and calories. You know the best tasting protein bar is from Built, and you got to try it. If you're like Steele and I, you know a healthier snack choice is better, but you don't want to compromise on that taste. You got to hit up Built. 100% real dark chocolate. That's right, real dark chocolate. And they come in the best flavors: churro, peanut butter brownie, and cookies and cream. As always, we're not sure how they do it, but they bring the flavor while also maintaining those amazing macros. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. You can get them at Sam's Club. You can get them at Walmart. And, of course, you can get it at Built.com. Make sure if you are near a Sam's Club, you head down, get a 13-bar box of the hit flavors. Brownie Batter Puff and Churro Puff, they're fire. Thank us later. Check out Built and Built.com for all of your delicious and healthy snacking needs.
Hey there, Locked On listener. Erica L. Ayala from Locked On Kraken here. And I just learned Discover credit cards do something pretty awesome. At the end of your first year, they automatically double all the cash back you've earned. That's right. Everything you've earned doubled. All of the cash back from eating at your favorite soup dumpling restaurant doubled. All the cash back from that trip where you sort of learned to snowboard also doubled. And the best part, you don't have to do anything ridiculous to get it. Nope, Discover does it automatically. Seriously though, see terms and check it out for yourself at discover.com/match.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Don't forget, we are free and we are available on your favorite podcast platform, including YouTube. So hammer that subscribe button, hammer the follow button, leave us a review on Apple and Spotify as well. And don't be afraid to leave any comments on the YouTube channel. DM us on Twitter at LO_fantasy NHL for any advice, any questions, even just show us your bets and NHL brackets as well. We love connecting with all of our listeners out there. So thank you guys so much for tuning in every single day. We are going to get to our big time bets. Flip, it is so nice to have you back talking bets with you again.
Thanks, brother.
The general gamblers
Appreciate
back
that.
in the business. We gotta look at some Conn Smythe trophy odds right now because
I think so.
only 8 teams eliminated, 8 teams left. The updated odds for the Conn Smythe Trophy are here, and I completely disagree with what is out there on FanDuel right now. I think there are a few players who are way down there that should be at the top of the list.
And also, this is just one of those times of year, Steele, that I think individual performances, like you and I mentioned off air, from guys like Matthew Tkachuk. The man's now up at the 5th favorite, tied with Mitch Marner at plus 1,400. These boards can fluctuate, and maybe you can capitalize because also Leon Draisaitl at plus 1,000. If you think the Oilers are going to go on a run, holy crap, Steele, $20 on that bad boy right now? I might have to lock that in, but I think I agree with you. Some of the other odds might be a bit skewed. But now is the time to pounce before those numbers start to really drop.
Yeah, for me, I'm really shocked that Connor McDavid is at the front at plus 550. I completely disagree with that. I'm surprised that Matthew Tkachuk isn't even in the top 3 at this point. The one player that
he could easily be the favorite.
I think he should be right there along with this other guy. I don't understand how in this world is Rupe Hintz like 30th place at plus 3,000 right now. He's leading the league in playoff points this postseason right now. He dominated the first round against the Minnesota Wild. Let me look at this real quick. Matthew Tkachuk, 14 points. Rupe Hintz, 12 points. Leon Draisaitl, 11. Those should be the top 3 players right there, not just based off of the points alone, but the way they're actually playing in the games. So for me, it's got to be.
And I guess, and at the end of the day, obviously, how Vegas is handicapping the teams to play out weighs heavily into these odds. Like, is realistically, are the Florida Panthers going to win the Cup? Probably not. And the team that, they need to at least be in the final to win the Conn Smythe. We've seen a lot of players on the losing side of the Stanley Cup still win the Conn Smythe. So obviously that reflects it. But still, the Florida Panthers are up 1-0.
Yep.
And I'm standing here wearing this Toronto Maple Leafs shirt. But I'm very realistic. This team just slayed the beast in the best team ever in the regular season. And I don't need to pump my tires on Carter Verhaeghe any more than I have already done. But this team's playing with confidence. And the Toronto Maple Leafs better wake up very quickly. Because if they drop 2 at home, Steele, we're not even going to go down that path today. Let's save that narrative for another time. But you know what I'm getting at here. There's some value in some of these players. And I think you pointed out the best value in Roope Hintz at plus 3,000. I think I need to throw $10 on him right now.
I think you might as well, because you and I both agree that the Edmonton Oilers are our favorite teams to go to the Stanley Cup Finals from the West, but the Dallas Stars are probably the second right now. If
Jake Ottinger's
so good. I watched that Seattle Kraken game 1 against the Dallas Stars. He looked awful in the first period. It was
crazy.
It wasn't even all his fault. Just like flurry of goals in the span of a minute. A deflection on the 4th goal. An absolute blister of a shot from Bjorkstrand on the 3rd goal. He's stepping up his game, but other than that, in the first period, he was lights out. He was incredible for the remaining of the game. Even on the game-winning goal from Yanni Gourde, that was a screen, 2 guys in front of him, and he picked the corner short side. So
I'm with you.
No, like
Dallas should take that. But we also said Colorado should take it. So here we go.
Did. On yesterday's episode, I did say the Dallas Stars in 7. I wanted to switch my answer right away after watching that game 1 because the Kraken looked that good.
Oh, man, this is just that time of year, Steele. And I think this season, what did I say about this postseason? And it wasn't a bold take. We were in for a special playoffs. Did I think it was going to be this amount of upsets? For sure not. But at least it has lived up to at least our hype for what I expected to be crazy situations. Not this crazy. Akira Schmid is the 9th favorite for the Conn Smythe. We'll talk about him on another episode, but I think lastly, the last name that I wanted to throw out here. I said the Toronto are going to go on the run that Leafs fans and Toronto fans want. And my bad if this is a sketchy connection coming in and out there, but I'm just trying to say Austin Matthews right now at plus 1,400, he's going to have to be pivotal, and I might sprinkle a 10 on him as well.
Yeah, and I think he will be. Like, you and I know you don't want to get down this road, but I want to say this real quick.
Please.
You and I both know how notorious this Toronto Maple Leafs team is for starting off on the wrong foot. Not even just in the playoffs, but you go back to the regular season. They stink in October. And then right when November comes right around, December, they start pushing up the standings. And that's the same in the postseason. You go back to their last 8 game 1s. They're 2-6 in game 1s. They don't start well, but they respond very, you go back to that Tampa Bay Lightning series. They respond well when it matters most. Down in the 3rd period, they crawl back, they tie it up, they win in overtime. They did that 3 times. So I absolutely love it. I'm not worried whatsoever. I thought it was a great game.
I think we could run this episode for another 25 minutes, Steele, if you realistically want to keep talking about this, because I got a lot of talking points about the Leafs, and I have been overseas. I celebrated the Game 6 win in the dark at 4:30 a.m., and I almost tore my ACL on a terracotta patio on the Amalfi Coast. And listen, the Toronto Maple Leafs are in tough here against a very confident upstart Florida team. And I think Toronto Maple Leafs fans might need to wake up to the fact that they could easily lose this series as well if Ilya Samsonov doesn't find it. So there's a lot of ways to take it, but we'll save that for tomorrow's episode because I do want to get to big-time bets very quickly. Keeping today short and sweet, but Steele and I are here Monday through Friday to break this all down for y'all.
This is David Harrison of the Locked On Commanders podcast to draw your attention to the taste that's going down in the bread aisle. All thanks to Dave's Killer Bread, bread amplified. Anyone can bake bread, few can rock it, and Dave's Killer Bread is the champion of killer taste, killer texture, and is for those who want to rise above the boring. Organic and healthy doesn't have to mean boring when it's made with the highest quality organic and non-GMO ingredients, packed with whole grains, fiber, and protein. 21 whole grains and seeds bread has a subtle sweetness and a seed-coated crust, while Good Seed products are the boldest and sweetest of all. Dave's Killer Bread was built on the belief that second chances can change lives, because after spending 15 years in prison, not only did the guy with the guitar you see on every loaf turn his own life around, he's helping others to do the same. By hiring the best people for the job, regardless of their background, he's ensuring your mornings no longer taste like cardboard, your taste buds don't have to feel sedated, and your sandwiches can become superstars. Visit daveskillerbread.com to learn more and look for Dave's Killer Bread in the bread aisle of your favorite grocery store.
The following message was written by ChatGPT.
Get the inside scoop on everything NHL playoffs with Locked On NHL. Join our expert hosts as they break down the latest news, games, and predictions. From the hottest players to the biggest upsets, we've got you covered. Don't miss a beat this postseason. Locked On NHL. Available on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, we are. And we are going to get to those big time bets where the money is made. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Don't forget, we are free and we are available on your favorite podcast platform. Make sure you're sharing this podcast with all your friends and families out there as well. Hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. We appreciate all the love, all the support you show us every single day. And may the 4th be with the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight, Game 2 at home against the Florida Panthers. As well, again, the Seattle Kraken and Dallas Stars at it, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's going to be a late one for you there if you're watching that Kraken game on the East Coast. But nonetheless, those are the two games for Thursday night. Flip, I'll throw it over to you to welcome you back into open arms for the degenerate gambling over here. What's your first pick?
Well, first of all, before I get there, this is how you know I'm serious about life. I had to be texting my sister who lives back here in Toronto for a couple of bets over the 2 weeks I was in Italy. It was a little spotty, so it's good to be back in the old GPS zone to make my own bets. And I think where I have to start is with this Florida Panthers Toronto Maple Leafs game. And I alluded to the fact that plus 1,400 Austin Matthews is still worth a sprinkle at that Conn Smythe. This is a player that needs to take the reins. He needs to lead this team. And we saw Johnny T step up. We've seen Samsonov step up. And we've seen Matthews play really well. In my opinion, he was the best Maple Leaf in the first round. 5 goals, 5 assists, and he needs to go off. And we know he can. And at points, this Florida Panthers defense has looked a little Swiss cheese-like during the regular season. And they've allowed a lot of goals in this postseason. So, Matthews, Marner, the whole crew needs to step up, but I have a feeling 34 is going to bang out. Give me the Austin Matthews anytime goal. He has 5 of them so far. I'm really feeling a big game from 34.
I'm with you with this pick as well. I thought he was fantastic, one of the best players for the Leafs in game 1 as well.
So close to a couple goals as well.
So many scoring opportunities, partial breakaways. Bobrovsky was just sensational in that game. But I don't want to
talk about that, by the way, from the homer side of things.
Austin Matthews, anytime goal, first pick. I think he's going to rip one by the Bobcat over there. Number 2, though, I've also got the Maple Leafs on the money line because they bounce back in big ways after a tough loss in game 1s, and they've done that for a while. So I'm going
a lot of juice.
Austin Matthews, anytime goal. Maple Leafs on the money line. And then for my lock of the night, I'm going with the Dallas Stars and Seattle Kraken under 6.5. I don't think it's going to be that crazy of a scoring frenzy in the first period or even the entire game. I'm going with the under 6.5 in this matchup, and that's my lock of the night.
I really do think you're going to see Jake Ottinger steal a game for them. He's that kind of goaltender. He wasn't great in game 1. 9 goals in game 1. If I were to be betting on that, because I was GPS restricted still, I would have lost money on that. I probably would have taken the under, knowing how good Grubauer was in the first round as well. I think I love that one. So I'm going to add that to a parlay with my last 2 picks. Before I get to my lock of the night, Jason Robertson, 2 goals, 5 assists so far. Fairly pedestrian on the clutch side of things. And I think he maybe just was fired up by that Joe Pavelski performance of 4 goals from the veteran. Hey, you know how I feel about Joey P. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole either, Steele. We got a lot more bullets in the chamber for the rest of the week. Robertson, anytime goal. I think he steps up big time as well. This just feels like a couple of good angles here, Steele, right? Leafs need to respond. Go to Matthews. Dallas needs to respond. Go to Robertson. It's not rocket science. I'm feeling these angles. And lastly, over. My lock of the night is over 6.5 with the Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs. I think you're going to see 5-2 Leafs, 4-2 Leafs, so I might tease it down. I don't know, Steele. It's just a gut pick here. 5 of the last – wait, let me pull this up. Hold on. I'm a little bit wiry because it's been a while since I've been on here.
I want to say 90% of the games in the regular season were over the number, maybe 95% of them.
Thank you
even
very much.
Even the last 2 years.
And also the previous 3 playoff games for the Florida Panthers, 28 goals scored. So I'm just feeling the over here. Samsonov is still finding himself. Leafs respond. Marner, all the big boys. Willie Nylander's got to get going as well. I'm going to say 5-2 Leafs final.
I
over,
like that
lock
too.
of the night.
I like that too because I was actually leaning towards the puck line, but I'm gonna go with the money line in this but I like the confidence there with this over in that Florida Panthers. Toronto.
I'm just happy to be back, pal.
We're all happy to have you back, Big Flip.
Thanks, brother.
Love you on the podcast, and we love you out there, everyone who tunes in every single day. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Hit the subscribe, hit the follow button, leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. We appreciate all the feedback from all of our listeners out there. Good luck with all your bets out there. Good luck to your favorite team in the playoffs as well. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.
Hey, Prime members, you can listen to this Locked On podcast ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today.